Hello everyone and welcome to Community's Corner, where we talk about everything gameplay related from the community to our design team here at Epic. This week we're going to talk about kit design on Heroes. Heroes is basically what we're going to cover the next few weeks, and we're here with our lead hero designer Cameron Winston, the main man Nathan Mooney, and myself, KL Smith, community manager here at Epic. So Cameron,
hi.
Last time you talked to us about our New Balance schedule. Today, we were talking in that last week's video a little bit about kit design. And so where I want to start with on this is talking about the traits, because we haven't talked about these a whole lot. But previously we had basically three. This is way back. We had
the way back machine.
Yeah, the way back machine. We had caster, ranger, fighter, and I think that was it, right?
That was it.
Yeah.
So now we have a lot of traits,
Yeah.
Essentially, that define a hero. What was the concept behind creating those traits?
All right, so the major thing we were trying to do is we noticed that our community was kind of pigeonholing heroes into like groupings based on arbitrary things that we were trying to help them communicate. And we didn't like that because it's not really how we approach balance. But the very, like, there was a very strong community idea of like, this person's a caster. Like, for example, Decker or Muriel is a caster and Gideon's a caster. And it's like, back in the day, I'm using really old terminology now that it doesn't apply anymore. And they'd be like, well, why does Gideon do a lot of damage with his meteor, and Muriel doesn't do a bunch of damage? Well, and then there was a lot of confusion, and there was like, why do their attacks scale a certain way or do a certain thing? And reality is that MOBAs have two things that are cool. First off is that they're meant to be dynamic and flexible. Like, you want to encourage a game where someone can go, I'm going to do offlane Muriel.
Yep.
Or I'm going to do, I'm going to do like a mid that's unusual. Like I'm going to do Aurora mid, and it's like, I'm going to try to see if I can make this work. And you want to encourage that kind of gameplay. So we wanted our community to be able to view heroes the way that we were making them, and not in some artificial construct of a way. So the goals of the trait system were, number one, dispel the myth that we somehow bucket our heroes into like 3 categories. Like, we don't.
Right.
We don't have casters, rangers, and fighters as categories.
What are those 3 buckets I've seen outside your office, though?
No, those are the tiers of my community staff that I collect,
right.
and I use them to sweeten my drinks. That's how I do it, because the taste of your salty tears gets me through the day.
Right. Naturally. Okay.
Yeah, that's how I do it. Anyway, so the idea of it is that you have certain things that heroes are good at, and certain kind of gameplay modes that heroes express. And so you want to encapsulate that to kind of, teach the community, hey, who's like, obviously, like if you've never played a MOBA before and you're like, what does it mean to be a carry? It's like, anyone who's played MOBA a long time, you understand, like, well, carries are people who scale off items.
Yep.
But carries are people who scale off items, and if I'm like, what is one of Twin Blast traits? And it's like, dude who scales off items, like, that's not
good.
It's long, nobody wants to explain that. So we have to make like pithy kind of ways of saying it. And so we kicked it around the office a lot, and I made lists and people hated them. And so I made different lists and people hated those less. And eventually people were like, I'm not super repulsed by that list. And then that's how we knew we'd hit it.
That's so funny about that. I'm just going to riff on this a little bit. The naming convention here of when we talk about things, it's like, what is the least hated? It's like, we have to get to this neutral standpoint of where people are like, no, it's not like a home run, but hey, I don't hate it.
Well, you're trying to be, because you're trying to be, well, obviously, creative people are always perfectionists.
Yeah.
You're always trying to, like, you want to get the perfect name that exactly encapsulates everything you're trying to say. Like, a good example of this is Wild. So we wanted to call it jungle because, like, that's what it is. It's like jungle, but jungle is also a position.
Yes.
So there's not just the position of jungle, there's the concept of someone who does well in the jungle. But if we call them both jungle, then it's like, wait, so being good at jungle makes you a jungle, and being good at carry makes you a carry, but being good at offlane, how come you don't give them the offlane trait? It's like, well, then we go, well, no. Just because I give you the jungle trait doesn't mean you have to jungle.
And then we work with jungles, like that's the Joseph Ungles over in. So that's It's too much jungle.
Too much jungle?
Too much jungle, man.
I'm just going to let that lie. You're going to have to own that.
Too much jungle, Mooney.
Too much jungle.
You better hope the editing team loves you. All right. So essentially, when we have all these notes, Wild, Sieger, probably were like the most contentious ones, I would say. But the idea behind it is like, just because you have the Wild trait doesn't mean you have to be in the jungle. Like Crunch is the Wild trait. He's got the Wild trait because he can wreck camps. Like he just shows up and like deletes jungle camps. So he's effective at killing camps in the jungle. Is there a world where you can run him in the off lane? Absolutely. Could you even run him as a carry? Probably. It's a little bit of, unorthodox, but I could totally see that working.
Right.
Sevarog. Sevarog is real great in the jungle. Also probably one of the best offlaners in the game. Kalari, Kalari, everyone thinks she's good in the jungle for some reason. Like, we see her off lane, played internally, almost all the time when she's played seriously. There's a lot of, but we don't want to give people, a trait and say, okay, Kalari's going to get the off-lane trait. Because then it's like, if you're the guy who's like, no, I'm going to do a support Kalari, or I'm going to do a jungle Kalari, and then everyone in your team is like, you're an idiot, you picked wrong, the developers have clearly stated this hero is for off-lane, and that's not what we're trying to do. So the goal of all of these traits is empower players to understand what a hero does well and what a hero might not be as good at. And secondly, to kind of give them a window into the kind of heroes they may want to pick. And thirdly, to help give them an idea of how the heroes play and where they might be good, but also to never force them into saying if you don't play this exact way, you're wrong. It's a big philosophy we have here, and it's why I try to be as gentle as I can in communicating a lot of the ways we design things.
Yeah, for sure.
Is because I don't want players to go, well, Cameron said X, Y, or Z, and therefore this is how we have to play because that's how they made it. And I want players to kind of take the tools we make and go, this is what I want to make out of these tools.
Yeah, no, we see it all the time on live.
It's
a good Seraph in the jungle, or you see Yin in the jungle, or you see some of those heroes playing off lane, Seraph in the off lane, right? So it's and I've seen some comments that would suggest otherwise, but based on our overview videos, for example, we try to give you a base understanding of how you can
it's
play.
like a tip of the hat to give you a general direction
but
and
it's
these
not,
associative properties
it's not
of
a
heroes.
defined way at all.
So
right.
I like what you said earlier. It's if I see that I don't know, I see Rampage is wild, and then I'm like, all right, I like playing Rampage, I like jungling, but I need a new jungler that I want to pick up, and I look and see oh, Crunch is wild too. Maybe I'd enjoy him because they have similar things.
Yes.
And it's that maybe I'd enjoy him that allows you kind of grow as a player. Because I know that personally when I play MOBAs, I tend to pigeonhole on singular heroes, and generally I want to build out my cast, and this is one way that I can find of doing it, rather than just kind of trying. It gives me a little bit more of a direction, because before I was just guessing into these three buckets.
But do you have a master skin yet?
Okay, all right, let's not. So next question, Cam, if you want to just
the thing about it is just to kind of tie this off in a bow is remember being growing as a MOBA player. It's better to get good at a position than it is to get good at a hero, right? You can get banned out, you can get counterpicked, a lot of stuff like that. It's just you don't want to just be the guy that's what I do is I play this one hero, and it's oh, you picked it, I'm abandoning, or oh, you picked it, I can't play, or oh, they countered it, and now I just have a bad game and flame my team. It's you want to play a position. So if you're thinking, who are good heroes that succeed in the jungle, and I'm going to play a good jungler, you can play, I'm going to play Chimera, I'm going to play Crunch, I'm going to play Rampage, I'm going to play Grux. I'm going to do these heroes, and now I have a deeper hero pool of people who could essentially accomplish the same role, and I can approach the role slightly differently based on the hero that I pick.
Okay. Last thing I want to hit for talking about kits is how you determine the kit based off of a position in mind or a role in mind for the trait. So it's something like, and this is very hyperbolic, but do all junglers need to have this ability in order to be successful in the jungle? How do you kind of think about the kits in terms of success for
giving them the
specific
tools
areas?
of the trade?
Exactly.
So this is kind of a complicated question, and I'll try to be as brief as possible, but this is kind of it's hard to unpack. So first off, the traits are the absolute last thing we do. The traits, I don't know if everyone knows this, but the traits are actually listed in importance from left to right. So if you see someone who's Marauder, Attacker, Burst, and someone else's Burst, Attacker, Marauder, that's different.
Right.
Like they're not the same ranking. So essentially whatever's first is like the most identifiable trait of that hero, and then it starts to get less. So like if you see like a hero like Countess and you see Durable, and you go, why does she have Durable? Like she just blows up. It's like, well, she does have good health, regen, sustain, but her Durable trait is the absolute last thing that you see on her list. So what we do is those traits happen after we make the hero. We made the trait system to kind of like say, okay, like we need words to describe the kinds of things that MOBA heroes do. And so what we did was we made them all up to kind of like have a language to communicate with the community. So right before, I would say about a week before we launch the hero is when I kind of sit down with Zeke and the guys who make those videos, and I say, I think this is what the traits are. And I'm the one who picks the traits, so if you hate particular trait layouts, that's totally my fault.
Right.
You know, send your hate mail to KL, please.
I'll let him know.
So but as far as like heroes, sometimes heroes are designed to be a thing. Sometimes they're designed to be a hero. Like for example, with Crunch, our major, like we never thought like, okay, we're gonna make a jungle hero, and he's gonna be called Crunch, and he's gonna be this giant robot. Like that wasn't how it happened. It was like we have this robot, and we had a kit for him, and it didn't work. Just straight up didn't work. Like we had ideas, we tried it, it was weak, it didn't feel good, and so we said, well, we need to try something different. And so we kept working through it until eventually we landed on the kit we got, and we had we're like, wow, this is a lot of fun, like people are gonna really like this, got a real fighting game feel to it, like this is great. So after that, we were like, okay, well this is fun. So, and then we played him, we're like, he's a jungler. Like this is where he's played best. Or like, you know, we get other heroes like Aurora was always kind of envisioned as an offlaner, right? And then you know, she kind of started. There was a point in her development where we could have pushed her to be more of a mid, but we pushed her to be more of an offlaner because we wanted her to be more of an offlaner. But like, that's not always how it happens. So we try to make the schedule in such a way that, you know, we're releasing different roles in different weeks, but there's so many factors that goes into like what makes a hero ready to release. You know, it's like, you know, the production schedule of like when the art's ready and like, you know, how we do, you know, who's working on it and internal concerns. And we go, okay, role concerns. And then we have like, well, what are we doing for, you know, this particular, like we just like, you know, we could say, okay, look, we just released, you know, Aurora and Shinbi back to back, but one's a mid and one's an offlaner. So from a design standpoint, they're different roles kind of thing. So it's like how we try to do it, there's always something that you miss, right? So it's like, you know, you get two similar views, or maybe you get 3 mids in a row, or something that goes wrong in these kind of schedules because of how they go. But the hero kits are constantly iterated as we make them, and they're constantly improved upon and changed. And we either, a lot of times, like, we won't necessarily start with, this is a carry, this is an offlane, this is a mid, but sometimes we do. A lot of times it's like, this is a concept, or this is a visual, or this is a particular type of gameplay that we think is really cool, and we're going to try to push that, and then we see where it lands. And of course, you know, as we get more forward thinking, and as the game starts to take shape, because a lot of these heroes were designed when we still had legacy, and we didn't have like off lane and mid and carry and all this kind of stuff. So as the game took shape, we started to see how it actually, you know, sat down. We actually got to a point where we're like, okay, now that we have these roles, we understand how they work, and we understand what kind of characters succeed in these roles, you know, for our game. Because, you know, we have reference from other games, but like understanding how to actually make that work, now we can give them the kind of traits. Okay, like, you know, if you're going to be a Marauder, you need to farm. Do you have the ability to do that?
Right.
If you're going to be a Sieger, you need to be able to wave clear.
Right.
Like, can you do that?
Yeah.
Or is it something where it's like, okay, this person fails at their role, and then it has to be designed. Like, you know, you have a hero like Countess. Countess and Chimera are both essentially play similarly. They're assassins. They find you, they isolate you, they kill you. But Countess plays in mid, Chimera plays in the jungle. You could make an argument that they could switch. There is a world where I could imagine, you know, playing Chimera in mid is kind of a bad world, but like I could totally, I guess, you know, if you really pretend and you believe, I could see it.
Okay, I'll report him after this.
You're gonna report me after this. But remember, I saw the people were swearing the Countess was a jungler when she came up because she got all that wave clear that she could do. She can, you know, collect, you know, camps.
Right, yeah.
But I still think that Countess is a more successful mid, and I still think that Chimera is a more successful jungler, even though they have the same assassin gameplay. Because essentially, Chimera has the sustain to keep him running through the jungle, and Countess has the lane sustain to keep her in the lane, which is different, right? So,
and that allows you to really see the subtle differences that make the heroes unique and like what they do.
Because I would never think, at least personally, when I played those two heroes, that they categorically I could see that they both assassinate, but I would never interchange them because their ability sets, while they can be similar in a loose sense, they operate totally different once you're actually in the environment and in the game.
Like I saw Aurora and I was just like, oh, this is support, and then everybody's like, oh, it was an offlaner, and I'm like, oh, you guys are goons.
Yeah, so
I'm totally gonna play support.
This guy plays Aurora support, which he plays a damn good Aurora support, but people go,
it's the assumption that you're gonna. It's just like you were doing this, but I saw that kit and I was like, oh, I see the ring as a way for me to allow a zoning area for my carry, whereas other people might think that is me confirming a gank for my jungler in the off lane. So like the different perspective that they're allowed because of like what you associate, the traits you associate with that hero.
There's actually there's a carry coming up, which depending on, you know, on when this is released, I'm not necessarily gonna, you know, say
don't spoil anything.
Don't spoil anything, but there's a carry coming online soon, who is an assassin, and when he comes out, you're going to be able to run 5 assassins. You can run a Kalari off lane, you can run a Countess mid, you can run a Chimera jungle. Sorry, excuse me. You can run a Countess off lane, a Shinbi mid, a Chimera jungle, a Kalari support, and this guy. And you could actually have a 5 assassin lineup where everyone's a different role, and they all do something differently. And the reality is that each of these characters is designed to do the same thing. Now, by the way, that team comp probably not the play. just pointing it out there. It's just for funsies. Just I'm mentioning it, but
you heard it here first, folks. Cam Winston
confirms
assassin team comp,
5-man
100% win rate.
Exactly.
Better win in 6 minutes, or you lose. But the idea of it is like they all approach assassination. You could approach assassination from almost every position, and so essentially the major thing is like, so when you're looking at kits, we want the kit to be successful in the role we intended for, but if it winds up being good at something else, that's just, you know, the nature of it. It's like, it's more important for the kit to be cohesive within itself. And the major philosophy that I have when I'm talking to the hero designers is like, I call it my 2-circle philosophy. You got to have, the first circle is your, you know, your first primary abilities, you know, my attack, my secondary, my primary, and, you know, my alternate.
Right.
All of those abilities have to work. Like there has to be a gameplay loop. That's the circle. And then how does my loop change or be enhanced with my ultimate? So like whenever I you know, we're talking about dev heroes, we're like, okay, what does this guy do when his ultimate's down? It can't be just nothing. You can't just be like, well, I just leave. You know, just like it's got to be something to do, and then it's like
he just leaves Monolith. When his ultimate's down, he just
like Aurora is a good example of this. She has a huge high impact ultimate, right? It's like it wins team fights, like it changes the way you have to play around it. It's fantastically powerful, but when it's not up, she can still block people off, she can zone out, she can dodge things, you know, she can still do a lot of work while her ultimate is down.
Right.
And that's important because if you're just like a walking ultimate and that's your purpose in life, like that's not very fulfilling as a gameplay experience.
Well, and Crunch is one of those where that's unique because like his ultimate forms you have this inner loop with his like Corvus abilities, and the ultimate almost creates this outer very close loop to that like inner loop where it's like we're doing very similar things, but it's just an enhanced version. So it's like a different kind of way to use that.
So we're about out of time. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. We're going to bring more. We're going to try to talk to Cameron some more here in the future. I think I want to hit on hero release schedule and talk through that in the next community corner that we do. But hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. It was very informative for you. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down in the comments section. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.